Welcome to the video, guys. It seems like a lot of people on Twitter are losing their collective shit on both sides in relation to the government scientist Neil Ferguson having to resign because his lover was breaking quarantine and coming round to his house. This woman is of course married, but in some form of open marriage, where her husband essentially allows her to go out and sleep with other men, like the scrawny-looking toad, Neil Ferguson. So, a nice healthy relationship there, I think you would agree. Now, obviously, Neil Ferguson is one of the scientists from SAGE who have been advising the government on the lockdown and coronavirus situation, meaning he is literally one of the guys who come up with the statistics that means we are all locked in our homes, while he's getting his floozy round to have a quick rumble in the sheets, which I think you will agree is a bit hypocritical, but to be honest, I don't really care. And also, something else is coming out now that he has resigned. We are seeing a lot of pushback from plenty of people in relation to the statistics that he has been given, and he has given before, as we will see in a moment. The Telegraph reported on this last night with exclusive. Government scientist Neil Ferguson resigns after breaking lockdown rules to meet his married lover. Professor Ferguson allowed the woman to visit him at home during the lockdown while lecturing the public on the need for strict social distancing, which I'm sure surprises none of you. The elitist types out there are constantly telling us what to do while running around doing the complete opposite. During the lockdown should be absolutely no different. I'm not surprised by this in the slightest. And there is something else I forgot to mention, which is this woman here is a left-wing activist, so was never really likely to follow the government's advice, as remember, to these rabid lefties, the Tory party is not the government, even though they are the government of this country. The scientist whose advice prompted Boris Johnson to lock down Britain resigned from his government advisory position on Tuesday night. As the Telegraph can reveal, he broke social distancing rules to meet his married lover. Professor Neil Ferguson allowed the woman to visit him at home during the lockdown while lecturing people on the need for strict social distancing in order to reduce the spread of coronavirus. The woman lives with her husband and their children in another house. I mean, can you just believe this nonsense? And it's now being pumped all over the media. Not just here on the Telegraph, the BBC, Sky News, they're all reporting on it at the moment. This guy's dirty laundry is being aired in a hilarious way, and if I'm honest, is making this woman look like a bit of a hussy, along with her cuck husband, who is essentially allowing her to go out and get ploughed by other men, while he sits at home and looks after her offspring. Because we cannot be sure that they are his. I mean, she's going out and getting ploughed into by other dudes. There's no telling whose kids they could be, unless he's had a DNA test, of course. The epidemiologist leads the team at Imperial College London that produced the computer model research that led to the national lockdown, which claimed that more than 500,000 Britons would die without the measures. Bullshit. The revelation of the illegal triest will infuriate millions of couples living apart and banned by the government from meeting up during the lockdown, which is now in its 7th week. I'm not too sure it's actually illegal. I think you'll find that's just against government guidance, which is not the law. On at least 2 occasions, Antonia Stats, 38, travelled across London from her home in the south of the capital to spend time with the government scientist, nicknamed Professor Lockdown. The 51-year-old had only just finished a 2-week spell self-isolating after testing positive for coronavirus. Professor Ferguson told the Telegraph, "I accept I made an error of judgment and took the wrong course of action. I have therefore stepped back from my involvement in SAGE, the government's scientific advisory group for emergencies. I acted in the belief that I was immune, having tested positive for coronavirus, and completely isolated myself for almost 2 weeks after developing symptoms." Well, isn't it supposed to be at least 2 weeks, not almost 2 weeks, but I don't think it really matters at this point. "I deeply regret any undermining of the clear message around the continued need for social distancing to control this devastating epidemic. The government guidance is unequivocal and is there to protect us all." And here we have a list of some of the things he's fucked up in the past, which we'll get to after. The first of Miss Stat's visits on Monday the 30th of March coincided with a public warning by Professor Ferguson that the 1-week-old lockdown measures would have to remain until June, unless of course his floozy needs to come round. Miss Strat, a left-wing campaigner, made a second visit on April 8th despite telling friends she suspected that her husband, an academic in his 30s, had symptoms of coronavirus. So, her academic husband in his 30s, who is obviously a cuck, has symptoms of coronavirus, and this woman is willy-nilly going round to other dude's house and getting ploughed into balls deep by some 51-year-old dude who had previously had coronavirus. Maybe she had got it from Professor Ferguson and passed it to her husband. She and her husband live together with their 2 children in a £1.9 million home. Nice for some, I suppose, but are understood to be in an open marriage. Yep, because he's obviously a cuck. She has told friends about her relationship with Professor Ferguson, but does not believe their actions to be hypocritical because she considers the households to be one. What the fuck is wrong with these people? But 1 week before the first trials, Dr. Jenny Harris, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, and Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, clarified during the daily Downing Street press conference that couples not living together must stay apart during the lockdown. Which, personally, I think is bollocks, but oh well, doesn't really matter. Professor Ferguson sat on stage, whose advice has guided the government response during the pandemic, as well as the new and emerging respiratory virus threats advisory group, which advises the Chief Medical Officer and the Department of Health. Sir Ian Duncan Smith said scientists like him have told us we should not be doing it, so surely in his case, it is a case of we have been doing as he says, and he has been doing as he wants to. He has breached his own guidelines, and for an intelligent man, I find that very hard to believe. It risks undermining the government's lockdown message. Which is probably why it was only released by the Telegraph now, and not back then, unless of course they've only just found out about it, which I highly doubt. Obviously, the woman failed to decline, we don't really care about that. Now, what do I think about this? To be honest, I don't really care. I don't consider his little floozy coming over to meet him to be that bad, but other people are not allowed to do it, so I do understand why people are calling him a bit of a hypocrite. But what I do find funny is, as soon as he's forced to resign after making this mistake we have here, the media and everyone else, including MPs, are so quick to go on the attack against him, with this headline also in the Telegraph. Professor Neil Ferguson's potentially flawed lockdown calculations questioned by MPs. Questions are being raised over the validity of Professor Neil Ferguson's modelling, which has led to the UK's draconian lockdown after the Daily Telegraph revealed he had broken his own rules last night. This morning, Securities Minister James Brockenshire said it was right that so-called Professor Lockdown had resigned after it emerged his married lover has visited him twice, contrary to the social distancing rules. He told BBC Breakfast that the government's scientific group SAGE would continue to support ministers in making decisions about the coronavirus response. He shouldn't have taken the course of action he did. These rules and requirements apply to everyone. They are there for good reason, Mr. Brockenshire added. But others have hit back at the measures in light of these revelations. Former Minister David Davis tweeted, "A bigger issue than Professor Ferguson's private life is the accuracy of his model, and I would have to agree. When applied to the Swedish policy, it forecasts 40,000 deaths by now, over 15 times the reality, which is something many of us have suspected for a long time. And as I said in previous videos, much like the Brexit predictions from the Ramonas, it's going to be found to be flat wrong." Andrew R.T. Davis, former Welsh Conservative leader, added, "He doesn't have the best track record, does Neil? He got it terribly wrong on BSE and foot and mouth, and he has got it spectacularly wrong here. I hope his stepped back comments means for good." And here we have a little bit on how he was actually brought down, or caught should you say. We're not going to really read through all of it, we're not interested in most of it. We'll just get to the important bits in relation to his little meeting with his lover. Where is it? There is no suggestion Miss Strat visited him during the period he was self-isolating with the virus, but to some, the trial shows a staggering hypocrisy and willful flaunting of lockdown rules. Professor Ferguson sat on the scientific advisory group, which we already know, and has played a central role in advising the government throughout the pandemic. Professor Ferguson's relationship with Miss Strat is hardly conventional. She is understood to be in an open marriage with her husband, an academic. The couple live in a £1 million house, as we already know, with their 2 children. According to a friend, Professor Ferguson has met her husband, and they share an interest in data science, and obviously ploughing his missus. The 51-year-old epidemiologist is married with a son, but is understood that he and his wife live apart. Well, at least he's not in an open relationship, I suppose. He is said to have met Miss Strat through the online dating site OkCupid more than a year ago. Other dating sites do exist, we are not here promoting OkCupid. She is a senior campaigner at Avaz, a global online activist network which has been praised by Gordon Brown, Tom Watson, Martin Schulz, and the President of the European Parliament along with Al Gore. So a few top names in there that we all love. She delivered a petition to Downing Street that called for an end to fossil fuel subsidies during the coalition government and has campaigned against Brexit. Why am I not surprised about that? In 2017, Mistress was pictured protesting outside Parliament next to puppets of Theresa May and Rupert Murdoch while holding a banner that read, "Stop Murdoch pulling the strings." Professor Ferguson is a regular guest on BBC's Today programme. Mistress told friends she was at home on the morning of March 30th when he appeared in the 7:50 AM slot. So she was chilling at his home after being belt-fed dick while he's going on the radio telling us all to stay in our homes and how we're not allowed to see people who do not live in our house with us. Bit of an absolute piss take, but really does not surprise me. And if I'm honest, I don't really care that he's broke the lockdown rules or she broke the lockdown rules. Who actually cares? What matters is they end this stupid lockdown and let everybody back out of their houses. What I do find funny is this woman's husband has met this guy and is essentially happy with him ploughing into his missus. That is fucking hilarious. No one's allowed out of their house, but I will let my missus go out so she can take another dude's dick. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.